People always say, how much does a video cost? And the answer is, it depends. And that's really annoying to have to tell anyone, because when people say, how much does a video cost? They always want a clear number: $500, $1,000, $10,000, $50,000. I don't know. It depends. What people are really asking usually when they say, how much does video cost? They're trying to get an estimate of like what your services, cost and what they can expect to be paying you. But that's not a really good place to start. A better question almost always is something other than how much does a video cost, because the answer is always it depends. So if someone's asking you this question and they're saying, how much does video cost, or how much does photography cost, how much does whatever cost? If you have wedding packages, or you have, some pre-planned things that can just be easily sold as a service, weddings come to mind, or event coverage, that's pretty straightforward. But many, many times there are so many nuanced variables in any type of production, whether it's photo or video, that there's the budget can go up or down based on those variables. So what I always like to talk to people about is, well, how much does a house cost? If you ask someone that, everyone knows what a house costs. It depends. You could also say, how much does a car cost? It depends. Put it in a context for what they can understand, because typically when people are asking like, how much does a video cost, they think you have like one thing you provide, like you do it a certain way, but guaranteed the way they're envisioning it in their head is probably not anything you would envision right off the bat. So getting to that point of like, well, what kind of features do you want? What specifications do you want in this video is very, very valuable, just like a house or a car or anything else that has a variety of options at all different price points. For cars, you have low-end models that are really cheap and economical, and they get you from point A to point B, but there's nothing fancy about them. On the high end, you might have things, like Teslas that are not super, super high end, but they're expensive and they come with nice features that some people really find valuable, so they're willing to pay for those features. For a home, it might be a shack, that's like, but it's on the most valuable piece of property there is. In another case, it could be a mansion, but maybe it's old and decayed, and so it's not really worth much anymore, and it's on land that no one wants. Of course, there's everything in between. There's small homes, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom. Is there a 2-story? What's the square footage? Is there a pool in the backyard? What are all the things, the features of this house? When was it built? Is it new? Is it old? This can help steer those conversations into kind of a meaningful place, so you can start talking about what the expectation is for the project before you talk about like how much it's going to cost, because there's no easy way to answer how much a video costs right off the bat. You can say, well, it's not cheap, but that's not a good answer either. And saying it depends is really frustrating for most people. So I really like to have the conversation like, well, okay, are we talking about like, is it a 1-day shoot? And they say, I don't know, how much can you film in a day? Well, like what kinds of things are we doing? Are we doing interviews? Are we doing B-roll? Like what's the nature of what you want captured? How many locations? Is this something that's filmed in one spot in one day? Or is this a series of shoots across different states in different locations? Very, very different scope of work there. Is there any animation required? How long is the video going to be? That's a big one. Is this a 15-second social video, or is this a 15-minute explainer video? Is it a 15-hour lecture series? All of these variables add up to the cost of something, and it's really helpful to have those conversations with probably the client who's asking you beforehand to kind of gauge what their expectations are. And if they have a set budget, you can definitely find where their budget aligns with certain things, and you can, if it needs to be a long video, well, that's probably going to be more expensive, so maybe you take other things out, like it won't be multi-camera, or it won't be as significant in editing, or maybe it's a short video, and so you can do more of that multicam and like really high-end editing if their budget, were to be the same if you compared apples to apples. So I always like to have that question, back at the person. Well, how much does a house cost, or how much does a car cost? Because it almost always makes it much more relatable, and they can start to understand, oh, yeah, I am buying a product. It's not just a service of like you just doing something. There's a physical thing that's created that has different components, just like different cars have different engines and different homes have different amounts of bathrooms. There's variety for the whole spectrum of price points, and video production and photography falls into the same category. There's different ways to approach it, and you can do really good stuff that's really cheap, and you can do really good stuff that's really expensive. It just really comes down to the desire of the client, and usually having that conversation just up front is a helpful way to get to that answer that they're looking for.